Hello, I'm Kate Williamson and welcome to Keep It Clean, a podcast from Jangro that talks about the changing face of the cleaning industry. We're on the road to net zero, and these days businesses are expected to demonstrate a real, authentic and ongoing commitment to sustainability. But what challenges does this pose for cleaning? And can your cleaning supplier help you reach your green goals?
We try and sell to our clients that it's a cost per day, so as opposed to the bottle price. We want to move less products as a distributor because if we can get more deliveries on a van, it means we have less vehicles on the road.
Procurement and sustainability are now aligning. The financial team in the company and sustainability is also aligning. So you kind of got this mega powerful triumvirate around finance, procurement and sustainability.
Here to shed some light, I'm delighted to welcome Steve Malkin. Steve is not only a Guinness World Record breaker, but more importantly, for today's purposes, is founder and CEO of Planet Mark, a company that provides certification to businesses meeting their sustainability goals. And also my colleague, Ross Osborne, Sustainability and Innovations Director at Jangro. Ross, you might also have some personal accomplishments and we can edit them in later, but welcome to you both. Thank you for joining me today.
Hello, Kate.
Steve, we'll start with yourself. The sustainable movement has grown exponentially over the past few decades. Can you tell us how that landscape has shifted?
Yeah, it's shifted a lot. So I moved into sustainability after breaking a few world records.
Good for you.
Drag that one up.
Sorry.
I should say that one of those actually was for the world's biggest sleepover, which was an incredible experience for about 30 or 40,000 young people to sort of sleep over their friends and so on. So it was a great sort of social sort of event, social sustainability, if you like. And another one of those world records actually was for the longest distance travelled by an electrically powered go-kart.
I think that's the one that I'd seen you talk about, I think.
With Top Gear years and years ago. But well done, great research. Now, sustainability.
Yes.
I moved into this space in around about 2005, wanting to do some sort of work in climate change. There was already a significant movement in and around sustainability and climate back then. But to be frank, a lot of organisations really didn't understand too much about measuring and reducing carbon. It was typically the domain of very large organisations. And now, as we've seen, in around us, we've seen this sort of, sustainability move into ESG, environmental social governance. We've seen carbon, measurement and reporting move into net zero. We've seen that social value and social impact are things that we could and should be measuring in organisations. And now we're seeing organisations recognising they have an impact on nature, the environment and biodiversity. And that's also coming at them. So massive change, massive, increase in regulation and policy, and a massive uptake in opportunity for organisations to get their arms around it.
Yeah, I mean, most organisations decades ago, they didn't have a specific department for this, but now every major organisation has to have this, rightly so. What was the catalyst for you getting into sustainability?
Around about sort of 2004-05, I was running my own 2 or 3 small businesses, doing PR and marketing, some event work, really enjoying it. They were kind of like lifestyle businesses because the 3 boys I got were sort of growing up, young. One of those things we worked on was scuba diving for the British Sub-Aqua Club, which involved taking journalists and, getting them underwater so they could see our planet.
From a different perspective.
Exactly. And it sort of is eye-opening when you go underwater and you start to see the sort of signs of degradation, coral reef destruction. So just felt that, in actual fact, I needed that change. And I wanted to, it was crystal clear to me, I wanted to work in climate and utilise skills that I'd sort of got along the way to see if, we could help organisations do a better job. And we started a carbon consultancy back in the day called Decarbonate, and we started measuring carbon emissions, whole life carbon, which is really interesting. It's not just the operational carbon of your lights and your heating, it's actually the carbon in the stuff that we use maybe to construct buildings, or construct some of the products that you're talking about here. Because there's embodied carbon there and there's operational carbon. It's all the carbon which is associated with that. And, we became fixated on that. And as we've gone through the years, we've seen how that has turned into this thing called net zero. And this is this radical reduction in carbon emissions over the next 30, 40 years. And it's completely and utterly transformational. It's happening and it's going to be seen all the way through. And I was just fortunate enough to get that change in career, some years ago, to be part of this incredible space that we're in now. I still enjoy it every day as well. Sometimes it's a bit of a bummer, Not all good news, is it? But actually working with organisations like yours and many others, we see that a lot of, there's loads more policy, loads more regulation now. Yeah. It's forcing companies to do this stuff. It makes complete business sense. It's great for society. It's great for health and well-being. It's great for the environment. Yeah, there's no reason why every company on the planet shouldn't be doing this stuff, because it's actually, it is good for business and all the other outcomes. And so it's a great space to work in. Yeah,
it shouldn't be a chore in any way. So, Steve, in what ways is Generation Z shaping the sustainability trends?
Sustainability is really, really important to young people. It's important in their purchasing decisions and stuff that they choose to buy. It's important to them in terms of the brands they associate with. We know it's important to them in terms of their place of work and their choices and amongst that. It's not just Gen Z and it's not just young people. So 71% of people say that sustainability is extremely important to them in their place of work, and that those places which embrace sustainability, those organisations who are purpose-driven, are better places to work. So this is not just a generational thing. This is for people in general, recognising that, this is, they're working for organisations that care and that they feel that those are better places to work. And 80% of people generally, not just young people, 80% of people generally say that in fact sustainability influences their purchasing decisions. So consumers think it's really, really important.
So a lot of their day-to-day decisions, it is a huge factor.
It's absolutely driving change in those brands, how they are as an organisation and their company culture.
Ross, how would you define sustainability in the cleaning industry? Why is it so important?
There are a couple of key components around sustainability in the cleaning industry. Eco-friendly products being probably the top of the agenda, because that's the products that we sell. Resource efficiency, waste reduction, health and safety, social responsibility are kind of the kind of key pillars, if you like. Eco-friendly products, we've seen a big change in the last couple of years. Products that we're seeing now with probiotics are classed as fifth generation in terms of the class of what they're doing. So we've had 4 previous generations and have gradually got better. And what they're doing is they're replacing traditional petrochemicals, VOCs, with more naturally derived biodegradable based ingredients. Resource efficiency will be around the concentration levels of those fifth generation products. How much can we dilute a product? For instance, we sell a product that has a 4 ml dose per 750 mils of water, whereas the equivalent petrochemical will be 10 mil, maybe 20 mil.
Yeah, significantly more.
There's a dramatic difference in that efficiency. With that hand in hand, you then have waste reduction, because you can get a lot more in a bottle. And those bottles are now PCR plastic as opposed to virgin material that we've seen in the past. And that then comes into the health and safety element, because if we're replacing harsher alkaline or acid-based products with more naturally derived products, then there are a lot less manual handling issues. And then coming back to the social responsibility side, a lot of these fifth-gen products that we're seeing in the market, they are more locally sourced. They're made in the UK. So we're ticking all of those boxes as well in terms of reducing land miles, thinking more about biodiversity of the products as well, and just generally having an all-round better story.
Steve, when a company comes to you, what are the most common challenges that they face?
Most companies actually don't know where to start.
Yeah.
That's a common problem. Yeah. A lot of organisations we work with, a lot of corporates who you could argue should know what they're doing, and most do. However, the supply chain, smaller organisations, is so desperately important for all the reasons actually that you raised there, Ross, in terms of this is a place where innovation exists in the supply chain. This is a place where organisations are bringing better products and services to market. But from their operational point of view, they quite often don't know where to start. And a lot of that might be around, say, measuring their carbon emissions as a business, which if you do that, it helps you get onto more tenders. So sometimes actually companies who are not measuring carbon can't even get through a pre-qualification questionnaire. So it becomes almost existential. So they say, well, look, I know I should be doing something. I don't quite know what it is.
Yeah.
Very common problem. Alongside that, and totally aligned to it, is actually they don't really understand some of the issues that we're dealing with here, because a lot of organisations are very focused, rightly, on staying in business. They may not be able to afford to have a full-time sustainability person. Most don't.
I mean, for my own business where we brought Planet Mark in, we thought sustainability or understand our carbon was just our own company issue. But actually what we need to do is engage with our own stakeholders, whether it's our customers, whether it's our own supply chain. We're not in this on our own, we're in it together. And it needs to be a partnership, a collaboration approach. And that's where Planet Mark really helps you understand and engage with those stakeholders.
So if we have a business owner that's listening to this podcast and they want to integrate a sustainability scheme into their business, what can you suggest for them?
Every organisation we talk to, they're always doing something. What they might not be doing is getting their arms around it, right? So what you might
just
want to do...
scratching the surface almost without...
Somebody over there is actually compacting all of that carbon and it's being backhauled. There actually is some really good recycling taking place. There's stuff in their products and services which is really, really good. None of it is being measured. And that is where you start to step in. And a carbon footprint for an organisation, to be frank, is really, really easy to get going with. You break a carbon footprint down into 3 scopes. Scope 1 and 2 are largely your utilities, your fleet, transport, company vehicles, and your electricity. And so you can have bills for most of that stuff. We can turn those bills into carbon, right? And that's pretty easy. The bit that you were alluding to Ross, is this other thing, which is in scope 3, which is pretty well everything else this organisation does, which you might be buying things, you might be selling things, you might be distributing things. It's stuff which sort of sits outside of your remit. You can also get your arms around that fairly readily. So for any company, they should start measuring their carbon, get it into scopes 1, 2, and 3. And as soon as you start doing that, you can start to solve what we call a net zero carbon footprint for any organisation. And that company that who may have come to us, the one you described, saying, listen, where do I start? If you can get them to measure that carbon, you can then get them to solve the scope 3 and the net zero for their customer base. And this is where you de-risk your business and you have the opportunity to win more customers and retain more customers because you're solving their problem for them. So start measuring your carbon, get it into scopes 1, 2, and 3, and tell your customers, because they'll probably be delighted that you're doing it.
Yeah. Ross, what should a business look for when it comes to choosing sustainable cleaning practices and solutions? And are there any pitfalls to avoid? Because I would imagine there probably are.
I think, we work in an industry that's very well certified and standardized. And what I mean by that, the products that we sell as a business, the CHSAs are probably one of the primaries that we look at. CHSA is the Cleaning Hygiene Suppliers Association. They measure a product based on, what it says on the box is in the box. It's a very good starting point. When it comes down to sustainability, there are plenty of accreditation schemes out there. Nordic Swan is probably one of the highest ones that I know. EcoVadis from a manufacturing perspective, but you've got Ecolabel, you've got the Vegan Society, which is on the Jangro Naturals range. So there's many accreditation schemes out there. They're the obvious things to look for. In terms of services, I think you've got to look at the supply chain, transparency of message, and ultimately somebody that you feel comfortable with. Every contractor has their own unique stance on what they want to achieve from their sustainability story. So it's trying to find a profile manufacturer that sits well with them.
And, there is always that assumption with sustainability, certainly on products, that they are going to cost more. And you were talking before a little bit about the cost and use. And that must be a constant battle that you're coming across when you're trying to talk to people about.
We work in an industry where you can buy a 2-ply blue centre feed for £5 a case and you can buy one at £20 a case. The bit that people miss is the detail in between, the length of the roll, the width of the roll. And the same with cleaning chemicals and cleaning solutions. You can have a 5 litre with a 10, 20 ml shot. That'll give you X amount of doses. And then you can have one with a 5 litre with a 4 ml dose, and that'll give you 1,250. Yeah. But perception is that the petrochemical version at £10 is more expensive than the one at £15, for instance. Yeah. So it's, we try and sell to our clients that it's a cost per dose as opposed to the bottle price. People tend to buy the cheapest that they see in terms of price and not necessarily what's in the bottle.
Because a lot of people are always looking at the most immediate future as opposed to the long-term future, what that can save you over time. And also with sustainability in general, a lot of people are just focused on, now and tomorrow, as opposed to what kind of planet are we leaving for the future generations as well.
There's a big piece around here about ambition, but there's some short-term stuff in here which is vitally important to understand. What we're seeing around working, that we're doing is the procurement and sustainability are now aligning, and the financial team in a company and sustainability is also aligning. So you kind of got this mega powerful sort of triumvirate around finance, procurement and sustainability. And the common factor in there is the sustainability piece. So procurement teams are getting much better understanding about how they can buy better, both in terms of price, quality and delivery of service. And sustainability is a fundamental part of that now. So procurement teams are getting better at buying better. They understand it more, which is helping organisations who are doing the right thing to get their products and services through into the places where they need to be, which is with clients who care. Yeah. And it's not necessarily true that this stuff is costing more, because it doesn't. Yeah. And the bit that I was talking about in terms of, look, if you start your journey fairly, easily on a carbon footprint, first thing you're going to do is find out how much electricity and gas and diesel and petrol and other stuff you might be using in your company. You're going to get that in front of your team and you can say, how are we going to cut this carbon footprint? And by the way, a lot of that is built on the electricity we're buying, the gas we're buying, the diesel we're buying and other stuff. And so can we get it down? You're going to save money. And companies do. Yeah. Quick wins in here. Short-term quick wins are totally attainable.
And again, coming back to what I said earlier, we need to engage with all the stakeholders. We want to move less product as a distributor, because if we can get more deliveries on a van, it means we have less vehicles on the road. It means we're emitting less carbon. It's a no-brainer. So the more we can get to people that fixate on costs in use as opposed to the cost of the product, everybody wins. It should be second nature. And as a business, fleet as a distributor will always be our biggest output. It is by far. And there's only so much we can do on our own. We require our customers to be receptive to newer ideas, newer ways of thinking, whether that is looking at 24-hour delivery so we can deliver at night as opposed to during the day in rush hour traffic. It means we can get around the city quicker. It means the vans are on the road less. If we can get to that, we can then look at maybe a double shift on that van. So rather than buying two vans, we have one van with two drivers. So again, we are reducing our impact by not having more tyres and more diesel and more this and more that. So there's lots of different things that we can do as a business, but it does require our customers to kind of come on board with us and come on that journey as well.
Good thing here is a lot of the companies, are required to do this will be setting out their net zero goals and other sustainability goals on their websites. It's all in the public domain. So if you're working for a large organisation and you're struggling with some of those, issues about delivery times, somebody in that organisation is really going to care about it. Now, it could be somebody in logistics who it should be their job to do it, but maybe we're just not quite getting there with them. What you can do is find another route. If you can look on the website, find out that, let's say they've got a net zero target, somebody's going to be measuring the number of journeys and transport pieces which are coming in and out of that facility, and they need to reduce it. And they're struggling to find ways and means of reducing carbon emissions. And if you can help them find it by saying, do you know what, we could collaborate with all of the other deliverers. If you can get us in a room, run a supplier summit and say, okay, how are we going to work together? And let's find a better way of doing this stuff. This is happening all the time now. So supply chain summits are happening by larger organizations bringing together the great suppliers. They say, these people will solve this problem for me because I can't do it on my own. And I need these suppliers to work together. Because that is a place where great supply chain collaboration, exists.
Communication is key.
Oh, yeah.
Ross, can you tell us about some innovative practices that have emerged in sustainable cleaning?
I guess with innovation technology within sustainable products is if you roll the dice back 10 years, you'd have a multi-surface cleaner, a multi-surface polish, a hard surface cleaner, a disinfectant. You'd probably have 10, 15, 20 products in your cleaning space to clean a building. Typically now, a core daily office cleaning building would probably have three. They'd have a multi-surface cleaner, that would do your floors, walls, all your common areas. You then have the specific washroom products, that would do that space. And then you might have a sanitizer. Then the products aside of that will be your daily washroom cleaner and a periodic descaler. And now we have organic descalers, which are based on citric or other organic acids, which are much more biodiverse friendly compared to petrochemical equivalents. So I guess you could say innovation in terms of how we've made that transition from petrochemical to more biodegradable based products, more naturally derived based products. We've seen a big transition to reduce SKUs, reduce cost in use, increase dilution rates, reduce deliveries.
Yeah.
There's still a long way to go. There's a crossover of, how low do you want to go in a dilution? 4 ml doesn't look like very much.
Yeah.
And of course, perception and cleaning is everything. We know if it smells clean, it is clean. But also when you dilute a product, if you dilute a blue multi-surface cleaner that's very dark blue in the bottle, and then you dilute it by 4 ml and it looks very, very clear, the natural instinct of operators is to put a little bit more in.
Yeah, because they don't think it's going to do the job.
Exactly. It's the same fairy liquid analogy. Lots of bubbles will do a better clean. Well, no, it doesn't. It just means you've got a lot of bubbles. And then if the building's big enough, then you move to sophisticated dilution systems. And although they're quite primitive at the moment, we'll be getting to points with dishwasher automated solutions where it will then count the amount of dilutions that could be monitored remotely, how much water is used, how much energy is used. And we're seeing that of IoT and Internet of Things. It's the sensors that we are now starting to see in buildings. They can be footfall detection, they can be sensors in dispensers, measuring soap, measuring paper. We can even monitor leaks on the floor using IoT, Internet of Things. And it can give a business many different insights into their operation, whether it's cleaning staff, whether it's the products that they use. You can then put in automated ordering patterns. Naturally, what we want to achieve long term is reduced deliveries. And I think we'll see that blend of technology, innovation, sustainability kind of come into traditional cleaning.
Well, look, thank you both, Steve and Ross, for joining us today, for sharing your insights with us. It's been really interesting. That's it for this episode. Our top tips for integrating sustainable cleaning practices into your business can be found on the podcast page of our website, jangro.net. On our website, you can also find out more about Jangro and this podcast series. Keep the conversation going, and remember that every single step we take towards sustainability, no matter how small, is a step in the right direction to creating a more optimistic, cleaner, and greener world. See you next time.